investment behind these, y'all.
Well, hey, y'all. I was making a post. Welcome, everybody. Hey, Jonquil. Hey, Parker. Hey, everybody. Hey, Doris. Hey, Lily. Hey, Rebounding. All right, everybody. Hello and welcome to A Deeper PTE. I am your host, Permission to Exist, and we are going to get started on a topic that I've been teasing for quite some time now. So I just wanted to let you guys know, if you notice on this channel, our little duck is gone. This live stream is brought to you by our November 2020 sponsors, our PTE patrons. That is primarily from my other channel, but I do reap the benefits on this one because StreamYard considers it all the same thing. So essentially, I'm unlimited over here as well. So big shout out to my sponsors from that channel. And if you're interested, even though it is for Permission to Exist, I will put that info in the chat or in the description at the end of the show, okay? Welcome, everybody. So we are finally going to get into a topic that I've been wanting to talk about for so long. And it's one of those topics that, in my opinion, is pretty self-evident, but I figured that we would take some time to really break it down and really explain maybe a little bit more than the surface level of what I mean by being actually pro-life. Now, for those who might wander in and have absolutely no context about where this comes from, let me just give a brief description / context / disclaimer. Essentially, my proposition that I am actually pro-life is saying that I value life itself post-womb, okay? And that is not to say that I don't value life in the womb. My position is you and I have no control over what happens in that womb prior to the baby getting here. I've already stated publicly before on my other channel, but I'll also state it here. I do find abortion to be sad. Oh, sorry, we are going to be talking. This is probably the only time I'll mention abortion during this stream. So I hope that doesn't trigger you, but it does have to come up. We're talking about pro-life. I do find abortion sad for the mom, the child, the dad, and the technician. I think it's sad for everybody. I really do. However, I personally don't feel we have an environment that caters to life on the other side of the womb. The womb naturally caters to life. But on the other side of the womb, I don't feel that we have a world set up to truly make life prosper. So as a result, I find it very hard to attempt to dictate to a woman that we demand she bring her baby here, and the odds of her baby dying post-womb is extremely high. In many situations, the odds of the mother dying just from a result of the pregnancy or the childbirth, complications from childbirth can result in a death. So to me, until we get our acts together on this side of the womb, you cannot argue for pro-life. You simply cannot. You can't. And we're going to kind of break down the multitude of reasons behind that. And I even have like a little low-key slideshow prepared for you guys. So welcome. Give me just 1 second here. My voice has to get warmed up a little bit. So if it sounds a little garbly, I'm sorry, but it should level out as the show goes on, okay? Welcome to everybody in the chat. Thank you for joining. Yes, it says the womb is designed to cater to life. The world isn't. Exactly. And until we can set up a world that is more designed to cater to life itself, you've lost me on the pro-life argument. On the have every baby, you must give birth to every child argument. You've lost me there. And I'm going to kind of explain why. We're going to get into it. So let me give you a little bit of the premise behind being actually pro-life from my personal standpoint, okay? So first and foremost, in my opinion, life is a very precious event, meaning it's so unusual and so unique that we should try to capture every moment of it that we can, and to the best of our ability, make every moment of it, not perfect, because perfect is not necessarily achievable, but basically to maximize and capitalize on every moment of life. So in other words, to me, one of the greatest sins is waste in any way, wasting of the life. But we'll get there. Y'all know me. Y'all know I have a tendency to kind of get ahead of myself first. Next, life is a rare event for you, really for you and I, for us. But what I'm saying is for you, the individual, life is a rare event because from what we can see, this is the only one that we're going to get. Now, there are some schools of thought that say that, yes, we reincarnate, that we have multiple past lives, that we've been here many times before. There are some schools of thought that say that. However, we have a very, very tough time proving that. So because we have a tough time proving that, all we can really bank on is the one that we know exists right now. Like this is the only one that you and I are aware of. And that's probably a very good thing for this to be the only one that you and I are aware of. Although people do claim to have flashbacks of their past lives. Anyway, to focus though, and to kind of narrow the scope, life is a rare event for you. So because of that, and because of the rarity of the event, we really should do our best to protect it, maximize it, optimize it. So at least when the end of it comes, you can say, I really, really enjoyed my life. I feel like that would be what I would really want to be the highest hope for everyone, that at the end of your life, you can say that you enjoyed your life. You can reflect positively. You can really be satisfied moving on because you really enjoyed your life. It was good. But right now, I don't know how many people can honestly say that. And if I were guessing and just estimating, there's a lot of people who know they're not suicidal. They would never harm themselves. But if death were to show up, they wouldn't run from it. Does that make sense? So they don't want to harm themselves. They would never do anything to precipitate the event. But if death were to come knocking, they'd be like, oh, hey, what's up? Come on in. And I know that sounds like kind of a dark thing to say, but I'm telling you, like, I've seen the inner workings of a lot of people's minds. A lot of people are really unhappy, you guys. And part of the reason they're unhappy is what we're going to get into, because we're not really pro-life. In many ways, we are a death cult type culture, but we'll get into that. Okay. So then finally, on the premise side of things, time is priceless, but it can be bought. And I will explain. Okay. They say you can't buy time. We'll get into that. All right, I'm going to rebut that, and I'm going to offer you a different perspective on, oh yes, we can buy time. Okay, so let's get into it. Now, once again, I've really tried to put my thoughts in some sort of meaningful order. I don't know if I did a very good job, but I tried. So I say that to say, if I start wandering all over the place, y'all just forgive me. I was telling another viewer on my other channel that I bought a house on Sidebar Island. Okay. So I like to visit my house on Sidebar Island. So y'all just forgive me. Okay. So on being actually pro-life, there's two components. Well, really three: true wealth, true freedom, and then time and how you purchase time. So we're going to get into those three elements of what I consider being actually pro-life. Hopefully I remember everything I wanted to say. So first and foremost, true wealth. So let's go back real quick. When we think of wealth, most people's minds immediately go to money, finances. Then after that, people's minds generally go to health. Health is wealth, right? And some people reverse that order. Some people put health first, then money, right? But I want to look at true wealth in a different way. So let's look at that. First, and these are in no particular order, having what you need when you need it. If you're a millionaire and you live 30 miles out in the countryside and you run out of toilet paper and you don't have a bidet, and you don't have a bidet, you're poor in that moment. In that moment, you're actually poor. If you're a multimillionaire driving your Bugatti out in the open countryside and you get a flat tire and you didn't bring your cell phone because you like to disconnect from the world. You like to get into your Bugatti, drive out into the countryside, disconnect from the world, and you get a flat tire. And then your Bugatti's OnStar isn't working for whatever reason, maybe because you're out in the middle of nowhere and there's no towers. You're poor in that moment. In that actual moment, you're completely poor. Your Bugatti means nothing. All of your money means nothing because in that moment, you don't have what you need. So one element of true wealth is having what you need when you actually need it, like in that moment. So the person making $25,000 a year, but keeps a back stock of toilet paper is actually richer than the millionaire who just ran out and they live 30 minutes in the countryside and all the stores just closed. So even if someone wanted to deliver it to them, they couldn't get it. So your millions mean nothing in that moment. Okay. All right. So let's move on to our next point on true wealth. Having backstock. So very similar to having what you need when you need it, having a few extras also. I think the saying goes, if you've got two, you've got one. And if you have one, you have none. And I kind of live my life by that principle in many, many ways. Because it's true. If you only have two of a thing and one of them gets broken, well, now I think I just messed it up. No, I think that's correct. If you have two of a thing and one gets broken, you still have one. But if you only have one of a thing and it gets broken, now you have none. And I think I may be messing that up a little bit, but I think that's actually how that saying goes. So having some sort of backstock, having supplies, that's wealth. Again, the millionaire who has a champagne cellar full of the finest wines, but no food or nothing to cook with or eat. When the pandemic initially hit, they would have really been screwed. They don't have anything in backstock. They don't have anything. Very similar to having what you need when you need it, you see? But the impoverished person who has flour, cornmeal, eggs, butter, milk, salt, sugar, you know what I mean? A few things in the freezer, some meat stored, some vegetables stored. They're wealthier than that millionaire in the moment with the champagne cellar. Do you understand? All right. So let's keep going. These are all related, but they're actually different. Having more than one of a useful thing. So the example that I'm going to use here are like your cell phone charger. So a lot of people are really working with just one charger in their house, just one. So they have the one that came with the phone, and that's it. Okay. So hopefully you're starting to kind of see a theme kind of emerge from all of these. Okay. But having more than one of a useful thing, not having more than one of something that's not useful, because what that turns into are people who become hoarders. People become hoarders when they have more than one of something that's not useful. But when you have more than one of a useful thing, now you're starting to kind of develop true wealth. Because, for example, I have I have chargers everywhere, y'all. I have a charger right here next to me. There's a charger in the bathroom. There's a charger in the bedroom. There's a charger in the car. There's a charger by the couch. There's chargers everywhere. Why? Because I value time. So I don't want to have to come walk searching, looking for the one charger I have to take it to the bathroom with me. Then unplug it from the bathroom and take it to the bedroom. Then unplug it from the bedroom and take it, by the couch. I don't want to have to go through all that. So I spent just a few dollars, like $10 for a pack of 5, I think. I'll link it after the show. $10 for a pack of 5. Now I have chargers everywhere. And I love it because now it's within arm's reach. So it's going back to the having what you need when you need it. And so it goes to having backstock. Because if I break one, which I did, because I'm clumsy, I got more. I had 4 more, So having more than one of a useful thing. Okay. So let's keep going. Now, true wealth, independence and self-sufficiency. All right. Independence meaning you're not dependent on anyone if you don't want to be. Self-sufficiency meaning something similar. You are able to provide for yourself if you need to. So for example, those of you who know how to sew, you can actually make yourself clothes. And this is a sidebar, taking a trip to my house on Sidebar Island. Y'all, that's actually one of my number one goals in life. I partially executed on that goal. So I have a sewing machine. I have quite a few sewing tools, like the different rulers, a couple of different needles. Like I have a lot of sewing stuff. But I had to kind of like table it for a minute because I didn't really have the space and it just wasn't the right time. But at some point in my life, I'm going to make an earnest attempt to completely know how to sew. I want to know how to make everything: pants, dresses, shirts, jackets, scarves, bras, underwear. I want to know how to make everything. Why? There's a couple reasons. One, because I rarely can find anything that fits me in the store. The way I'm shaped, I always end up having like a gap in the back of my pants. I know the ladies relate. And I hate that gap. I detest it. So it's very hard to find like pants that fit well, shirts, dresses, whatever. So I want to be able to actually wear clothes that fit me. That's number one. But number two, it would be really awesome to be like, man, I want to make something that looks just like that. And just go to the store, pick out the fabric and make it just like that. If I ever have children, it would be awesome to be able to make a lot of their clothes. So what that does is make me self-sufficient in terms of wardrobe and independent from the fashion industry. So the fashion industry would no longer dictate to me what I get to look like this year. They no longer would get to tell me how I get to present in the world this year. I get to make that choice. If I don't like their color schemes this year, I don't have to go with their color schemes this year, you see? And the knowledge of how to do that is borderline priceless, y'all. It's priceless. You see how many stores were closed or shuttered or limited or whatever. So the seamstresses in our society, oh, they're fine. They don't need the stores to be open to purchase clothes. They just go make their own. No biggie. If it all goes up in flames, as long as they have fabric, they're good. Do you see how priceless that is? And that same mindset carries over into like gardening, people who garden and grow their own food. Same thing. I'm trying not to get ahead of myself, but what I want to say is they really don't want us knowing how to do this stuff. Who is they? Your mega corporations, your investors, your venture capitalist firms who prop all these companies up. They don't want you to know how to sew. They don't want you to know how to grow your own food. They want you to be dependent on them. That is what they want. Because in your dependency, you keep their industries going. You keep them afloat. You feed them. You feed their families. You send their kids to school. You do go pay for their houses out on Sidebar Island. You do all of those things when you support these industries because you don't know how. So that's why I categorize this under true wealth. Because true wealth is saying, you know what? I really hate the trends y'all are on this year. So I'm just going to make my own clothes this year. And maybe next year I'll buy something from you guys. Can you imagine if 50% of our society started sewing their own clothes? Can you imagine how much that would devastate the fashion industry? If half of us just took up sewing as a hobby and just started making our own stuff, it would destroy the fashion industry. Destroy it. It would devastate it. By the way, this stream is partially inspired by the stream I did yesterday on my other channel called Don't Get Me Started on remote workers working from home. So this is kind of where all this is coming from. Some of you know that, most of you know that, some of you may not. All right, so let's move on. I thought this was so important, okay? True wealth is peace on demand. If you have the ability to put yourself in a peaceful situation pretty much anytime you want to, you are wealthy. And you may not know that. You may not see it that way. But if you have the ability to generate your own peace at will, you are wealthy. So that's really something to kind of reflect on and meditate on. Like, do I have the ability to generate peace at will? If you don't, you're just lacking in this area. I'm not saying you're poor. I'm just saying you're lacking in this particular area. And it makes me chuckle a little bit because, guys, I think I have protected this more than anything else that I have protected in my life. I have protected my peace on demand. Now, when I was younger, I was not quite as able to give it to myself. Like, what I mean by younger is like early teens, like 17, 18, on into college, because I really didn't have the money. So I couldn't pay for my own place, had to deal with roommates and things of that nature. So in those times, I couldn't give myself peace on demand. Peace came when it came. So peace came when my roommate wasn't there. Sorry, roomie. But it's true. So I had to take my peace where I could get it. You see what I mean? But now I have created a life for myself where, for the most part, I'm not 100% yet, y'all, not yet. But for the most part, I'm able to give myself peace on demand. And I consider that a very wealthy trait, because when you don't have control over your peace, that subtracts from your life in a very dramatic way. And remember, the whole point of this live stream is on being actually pro-life. And to me, part of being pro-life is being pro-peace, especially for yourself. So if you're not able to give yourself peace, or if your peace is being taken from you, that is an action against life, is what I'm saying. So any system, any policy, any procedure that is designed to or accidentally takes away from your peace is actually against life. I think I'm getting ahead of myself. Let's keep going. Next, very similar to peace on demand, is uninterrupted time, pretty much at will. I should have put at will on there. but being able to spend as much time as you want until you feel satisfied with something. So, in other words, your peace or your focus or your concentration or whatever it is isn't interrupted every 5 or 10 minutes by someone or something. Okay. So these are all traits of true wealth. We have one more, health, of course. Again, these are in no particular order, but true wealth is having health and being healthy. So anything that works against health is actually against life itself. Okay. Oh, we have a couple more. Sorry. Creativity and applied intelligence. So, in other words, if you have millions of dollars, but you lack creativity, your life is still going to suck because you don't even know what to do with all that money. Do you know? So, when I do my little meditations and things, I always meditate on what would I do if I became more wealthy? And one of the first things I would do, you guys, is my backstock. They're like, PTE, you're wealthy, darling. What are you going to do your first wealthy weekend? And I'm like, well, I'm actually going to rent this U-Haul and I'm heading down to the Costco and I'm getting ready to start my backstock. Yep. I'm going to spend about 10 grand on backstock, toilet paper, paper towel. Well, they probably won't let you buy that much these days, but in my meditation, we're not under COVID lockdowns. We're free to do how much we want to do. So in my meditations, we're free. And I buy like a year's worth of toilet paper, year's worth of paper towels, laundry detergent, what else? Water, pasta. You get my drift. Trash bags, things of that nature. Everything that I come to you guys for every month anyway. Just a massive backstock because I understand that that is wealth, you know? It's wealth to be able to basically go down into your basement and just shop in your own little store. That's wealth. That's true wealth. And I say all that to say that's part of creativity. You know, a lot of people get millions of dollars and they just go spend it on luxury cars, jewelry, things of that nature. And that's fine. You're within your rights. But if everything shut down globally, do you have any backstock? Do you have any food in your house? Got any toilet paper? Paper towel? Nothing? No detergent? Anything? Do you even know how to wash clothes? And that's where the applied intelligence comes from. Because again, it's useless to be intelligent if you don't know how to apply that intelligence. It's completely useless. And that's why I consider it a feature of true wealth is being able to actually apply the intelligence that you have. Otherwise, you're just like a smart little bot just sitting there. And similar to the applied intelligence, wisdom. How many rich and famous people do we know have gotten themselves into the most ridiculous and crazy situations because they're not wise and they don't apply any intelligence towards their lives, towards what they're doing, towards their past, present, and future actions? They don't apply any intelligence whatsoever. And a lot of them end up broke. Some of them end up in jail, or some of them just end up, going belly up in one way or another because they didn't have applied intelligence or wisdom or creativity. Okay. Now here's another one we may not think of. True wealth is accuracy. Okay. I get so mad at myself, y'all, and I try hard not to because it's really not necessary for me to get as upset with myself as I do. But I hate it when I'm not accurate in my life. And that probably comes out in my streams and things. Like y'all see how I act when my show doesn't go how I want it to. It really irritates me. And again, I know it shouldn't. I'm trying to work on that and just letting things flow. But the reason accuracy is so important to me is because I really don't like backtracking. I don't like doing rework because all of that contributes to wasted time. You're wasting time. And time is so precious. So accuracy is true wealth. And think about it like this. Accuracy in life is almost like a dance. And think about how much they practice like a ballerina, a true ballerina, or is that the word? Are they called true ballerinas or something else? Prima ballerinas, something like that. The ones who do ballet for real. They practice and practice and practice and practice and practice and practice some more. Why? Because accuracy matters. Because they have to hit every move, every motion for it to count. Otherwise, you throw the whole dance off. And I kind of look at life the same way. The more accurate I am, the less I throw off the dance of life. No, I can't prevent unexpected occurrences. There will always be curveballs that come at us. But what I'm trying to do is make as accurate as possible the things that I'm doing so I don't waste a lot of time and so I don't throw off the dance, you see? There's a rhythm and a motion and a fluidity that I'm striving for. And I got a long way to go, but I work on it every day. Every day. Now, clean air, water, and food on demand, meaning you don't have to wait for it. It's there. You don't have to go and search. You don't have to go on a mission. You don't have to go for a hunt. It's all there, right? These are the markers of true wealth. And then this is the last one for this slide. Adequate rest. Being able to get as much rest as you need to function and feel good in the world, okay? And you'd be surprised how many people do not have access to this option. You'd be surprised how many millionaires and billionaires don't have access to the option of adequate rest. Why? Because a lot of them are constantly being drugged all over the world for their companies, for their meetings, for their businesses. You know, they're flying first class, but can you really sleep well on an airplane 30,000 feet above the ocean? I mean, really? Really? I mean, I know they have beds. I know some first class cabins have like cots or whatever. But I think you get my point. That person is not really getting adequate rest. They're getting as good a rest as they can get in that moment. But truly, their lives do not belong to them. I should have put that on here. Your life belongs to you. I'll just have to remember that later. Their lives do not belong to them. And as such, what happens with them all the time? Let's skip the first 3. So their lives don't belong to them. As a result, they're highly dependent on their organizations for everything because they're pretty much culted in. So they're highly dependent, can't be independent. Independence is frowned upon. So they're not really allowed to be themselves. Self-sufficiency could be debated because we don't know what they do at home in their personal lives, but they're rarely home. They certainly don't have peace on demand because a lot of these CEOs and things, their days are very, very busy. They're constantly taking phone calls, meetings, going here, lunch meeting, dinner meeting, board meeting. So they don't have peace on demand. They cannot give themselves peace when they want to. Their time is constantly interrupted. A lot of their health suffers as a result of all of this. They might be creative, they might have applied intelligence, but they're not allowed to use it because their lives don't belong to them. They might have some wisdom, but if they had true wisdom, they would probably quit that job unless it was something that was truly meaningful to them. But, any wisdom they have probably has to be stuffed in order to not upset the corporate cult that they're a part of. Accuracy, that one could be debated. They probably don't have to be very accurate in their day-to-day lives because they always have someone there to cover their mistakes. So they never really learn the dance because every time they start to mess the dance up, the camera just cuts away. So the camera was on them, then they started to mess up and they just cut the camera away to someone else who's not messing up. So they never really learned the dance. Clean air, water, and food on demand is debatable because although they may have a lot of money, depending on where they are at any given moment, they may not have access to those things, you see? So and then adequate rest, as we just discussed, their rest is always interrupted, always, because they're always having to be somewhere for someone else. So what I'm trying to show you is how someone with lots of money could actually be impoverished and not know it. They know it on some level. They just don't fully, they can't maybe wrap their minds around it or put words to it. But someone could have a lot of money and still be completely impoverished. And actually, a lot of times when you hear about people in these high positions, trigger warning, ending their own lives, and you say, how could they end their own lives? They had this, they had a beautiful house, a beautiful wife, beautiful children, a great career. They traveled all over the world. They got to visit countries people will never see. How could they take their own lives? Because they were actually poor, you guys. That's what I'm trying to get you to see. They were actually completely impoverished the whole time because they didn't have access to these things. Do you see? And sorry, there's one more on my slide. Beautiful surroundings. That is true wealth, okay? So these are going to be your qualities and characteristics of true wealth. And just to speak on the beautiful surroundings, you know, that millionaire, that billionaire, that CEO, yes, they can fly to an island anytime they want to. They can do pretty much anytime. They can put themselves anywhere they want to, but oftentimes they'll find themselves in not so beautiful surroundings as a function of whatever it is they're doing, if that makes sense. So it's hard to explain what I mean. They might go on some like a mission trip and they're doing it on purpose, but they put themselves like in the midst of a third world country. Not that there's anything wrong with that if they're there to help, and you need to be there to help. But what I'm saying is now you're 16 hours away from your home and you're kind of ready to go, is what I mean. You know, you went on your little mission trip because you had the money to do it. And, you know, 1 or 2 days in, you're now ready to go home, but you don't get to go home for another week because that's what you paid for. So now you're stuck somewhere that may not be so beautiful or safe. Dang, I should have put safety on here. So many to add. I knew I would think of more as we went through it. So now let's talk about true freedom. True freedom is something I think we really need to focus on. And I might have to revisit this again because as I listen to my other streams, I remember what I wanted to say about the particular topics. So I know for a fact I'm going to leave some things out here. But the reason I bring up true freedom as a function of actually being pro-life is because true pro-life is real freedom. And I'm going to explain. But being actually pro-life is being pro-real freedom. And we're going to talk about that because what has happened is a lot of people have actually already given up many of their freedoms, but they don't see it. They think their freedoms are being taken away now via these lockdowns and these masks and things. They think that's how their freedom is being taken away. And I'm here to tell you, you've been giving it up for years. You've been handing it over willingly. So we're going to talk about that. Okay. Now, there's something that looks a little familiar. True freedom is peace on demand. So this was on our last list. And yes, it is on this one on purpose because I consider it a function of true freedom as well. So when you apply this to the workplace, and you consider how many offices have taken on the approach of the open office format, right? What they've done is they've taken away your peace on demand, your ability, well, we're talking pre-COVID, obviously, your ability to say, you know what, it's a little too chaotic in here for me. I think I'm going to go outside, or I think I'm going to go to one of the offices that you can like rent in the building, or I think I'm just going to go home and finish this. Because true freedom is having the ability to determine your peace. So to use another theme we've talked about on my other channel, I've said on my other channel, Permission to Exist, that I find apartment living to be barbaric. And that is not coming from a high horse because I am someone who has had to rent for years. So it's speaking from experience. And when you live in an apartment, especially underneath someone, you do not have the ability to provide yourself peace on demand. You don't. You know who gets to determine your peace for the day? Your upstairs neighbor. And in some really insufferable situations, your downstairs neighbor gets to determine your peace for the day, because some downstairs neighbors are super loud and insufferable. So that's who gets to decide your peace for the day. And because that's who gets to decide your peace for the day, you're not truly free. You are captive to whoever gets to determine your peace for the day. You understand? Independence or lack of dependency is true freedom. So this came from our other list as well. And no, they're not all going to be the same, guys. I'm not going to set you up and have us have the same exact list on true freedom. There are a couple of crossovers, but then there are some that are actually different. True freedom is a lack of dependency, meaning like if you were truly free, if you really want to take it down to bare bones, you would be able to grow the cotton or whatever fabric. You would be able to grow the cotton. You would be able to pick the cotton. You would be able to process it yourself, like work that up into some sort of fabric, cut it, stitch it, and make your own pants. So then literally you grew your own shirt. Now that's lack of dependency. Most of us are not that good yet. Most of us don't know how to take it, from seed to shirt, basically. We're not that gifted yet. But do you see my point though? That's a person who's truly, you've now completely broken off the grid for the most part. People who use solar powered electricity for their homes, generators and things like that, or solar panels on their roof, they're on their way to a lack of dependency. People who grow their own food and till their own like farms or homesteads, they're on their way to a lack of dependency, right? Now true independence would be you being able to actually make like the tractor. Like you go buy the rubber, the parts, the gears, the engine, and you actually assemble your own tractor for your own farm. Now you've done it, right? But now most of us will never get there. You know what I mean? I'm sure there's people out there, who know how to build their own cars. Like you're on your way to a lack of dependency when you know how to build your own car. Do you see what I'm saying? The question on the screen or in the chat says, so can narcs truly be pro-life? I feel like they couldn't. No, because they work so hard against everything we've talked about so far and everything that we're getting ready to talk about. No, they can't be pro-life. They are against life in so many ways. It's almost like they were designed to go against life. But now you're trying to take me down a rabbit hole. But no, I think all narcissists can't be actually pro-life. Very anti-abortion, are also extremely judgmental of the situation the woman finds herself in once the baby gets here. They refuse to explore the added layers and see, we might have to talk about that one day. That might have to be a don't get me started. They refuse to explore the added layers to see all the different scenarios that could cause someone to end up in that situation. So I won't go down that rabbit hole, but good point and good question. So then we have the making your own decisions. And I think this is so critical and so important, you guys. And it's one of the main reasons I feel like I can't get married. I really feel like I am not a candidate for marriage because I am very self-directed. And what that means is by the time I've made a decision regarding something for my life, I've already thought it through. Like I've considered the pros, the cons, the possibilities, the ifs, the maybes. I told you guys on my stream last night from my other channel that I pretty much have a perfect calculator in my head, just not out loud. So I've already weighed everything in my head. So by the time I make a decision, I've already decided that this is what I'm going to do. So what I would have a lot of trouble doing is submitting to someone who thinks that they can make better decisions than me. If you can make better decisions than me, your life should reflect it. Like you should actually be someone that I look up to, which obviously, like I wouldn't marry someone that I didn't look up to. But my point is, well, and then I guess I just invalidated my whole argument because I said, I don't want to get married because I don't want to submit myself to someone who thinks they can make better decisions than me. But then I also just said I wouldn't marry anyone who wouldn't make better decisions than me. So poof goes my argument. But do you guys get my point though? Like even someone who might make better decisions than me, like if you're that much smarter than me, then maybe I'm stupid. You know what I mean? Like if every time I come and say, "Hey babe, I think I'm getting ready to go do this," and you say something to me that makes me go, "Oh my God, you're right." Well, then maybe I'm dumb. You know what I mean? That's always a possibility. So, but I think in a lot of scenarios, that's not the case, you guys. In a lot of situations, people get married to people that they respect and, they like them, they love them. But what happens is the one spouse or the other starts trying to dictate the other spouse's life to them. And they're not necessarily the greatest decision maker or the greatest leader. For me to hand over the outcome of my life to you, you have to have demonstrated that you are an incredible leader and an incredible decision maker to the point where I always come to you for consultation. Like I just stop making my own decisions because you're that much smarter than me. Like I might be able to submit to that, but I don't know because and here's the other reason I say that. Even though this person might be smarter than me, sometimes it's hard to explain my motivations it's hard to explain, I guess, the rationale behind something. So for example, it may not make sense to them in the moment, but once they see it unfold, they go, "Oh, I get it. Now I see why she wanted to do it that way." You see what I mean? So they don't always have the complete story or the complete picture. And I'm not always able to articulate that because in real life, people don't let me talk, y'all. Like in real life, what I really want to do is figure out a way to like record myself talking to someone else and use a voice changer so you don't know who they are. And maybe even scramble it a little bit so you can't really hear what they're saying, like a blah, 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 something like that. Because what I want to show you guys is how in real life, people do not let me speak. They barely let me get a word out. They barely let me get a thought out. And it used to drive me crazy, but for the most part, I just avoid them all now. I just don't talk to them anymore. But you'd be surprised how many people just dominate conversation with me. And some people will hear that and say, "Well, PTE, you just need to grow a backbone and you just need to jump back in there." And I told you guys, I've started talking, just finishing my sentence, and it's super weird and awkward, but I do it. But I don't want to have to be that person. I don't want to have to be the person who's always talking over you because you interrupted me. I don't want to do that. So anyway, I say that to say, my general approach is, well, you think you know all the answers, so go ahead. Go ahead. What you got? Oh, interesting. Well, I was thinking, and then they cut me off. I'm like, all right. I just sit back and just let them whatever. So people don't really truly let me speak in real life. So I say that to say they could never understand my motivations. Never. They'd never be able to understand the reason that I make certain decisions or the reason that I move the way that I do, because they never take the time to actually hear all of the layers and hear all of the elements that led to that particular conclusion. So I say all that to say, true freedom is being able to make your own decisions because you are truly the only one who knows all the layers. You truly are the only one who knows all the reasons. So when other people start trying to make decisions for you, they are truly lacking context that only you can provide. And even still, the one thing that you can't provide them is perspective. You can explain your perspective all day. You can be very articulate and very good with words, and you can explain your perspective all day, but they will never know what it looks like from your eyes. Never. They'll never know what it looks like from the inside of your head. You can describe the view all day, but they'll never know what it looks like from your eyes. That's what I mean. So true freedom is being able to actually make your own decisions for those reasons, okay? All right. Freedom of movement. Now, hear me out. I know right now we are dealing with lockdowns, renewed lockdowns, second lockdowns. I don't want you to take freedom of movement as a discussion on COVID because it's actually not what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about, freedom of movement, is you get to decide where your body is at any given moment. Again, try to put COVID out of your mind. Try to put the lockdowns out of your mind. Okay. What I'm talking about is, for example, when you're ready to go, when you're ready to leave a place, are you free to leave, or do you have to wait for some reason? Are you made to wait for some reason? When you are wanting to get away from a particular person or group of people, are you free to do that, or will you get in trouble if you move your physical person away from this person or this group of people? Are you really free to do that, or will you actually get in trouble? Say, for example, taking a lunch break by yourself, which is also part of peace on demand and independence and making your own decisions. But it's also freedom of movement in that, you get to put your body where you want it to be. So that's really what I mean by freedom of movement. So taking that and applying it to one of my favorite examples, driving in traffic, when people block you on the highway, either by cutting you off or by holding up a lane that's supposed to be a free flowing lane, what they are actually doing is kidnapping you. And the reason it qualifies as kidnapping is because they are interfering with your freedom of movement. Hear me out. It doesn't matter if you want to go 100 miles per hour. Now you would say, well, PTE, that's unsafe. That person could cause a really fatal car accident. But here's my argument. Number one, we should have enough cops on the road to monitor the people flying down the highway at 100 miles per hour. So that's one. So why are they able to do it in the first place? That's one. Two, if we really don't want cars going 100 miles per hour down the road, why do we make them to go to 140? If you really don't want people flying 100 miles per hour, y'all need to cap these cars off at like 80, 80 or 90. You understand? Now, I'm not absolving the speeder, but what if that person is going 100 trying to get to the hospital to see a child that just got hurt or something? You know what I mean? Again, I'm not justifying the speeder. What I'm saying is, in some ways, and I know this is going to sound bad, but in some ways, they kind of sort of, they have a right to make their body move that fast. I know. Y'all don't chew me out. Try to hear me out. If we really don't want people going 100, we either need to stop letting these cars go that fast, or we need more cops to actually manage that, even though I'm actually kind of against that, because I really resent like the speed limit being 70. And if we're going 72 or 73, we run the risk of getting pulled over. So that's not freedom. Like, wow, I can't go like 2 or 3 miles over, or I run the risk of getting pulled over. So I feel like that kind of interferes with freedom of movement. But my point is, in many respects, we do not have a right to endanger the lives of others. But we also kind of have a right to move our body around as we wish. And I know that sounds awful, because a lot of people who do go flying down the highway do cause major accidents. Yes, they do. So I'm not justifying them, but I guess my question then becomes, well, what is the limit then? You would say, well, PTE, the speed limit is the limit. Okay. Well, realistically, everybody can't go 70 down the highway, and I'll tell you why. You want to know why? Just like the example I gave with the stream last night. If I'm on cruise control on 70, minding my own business, and someone cuts me off and starts going 60, which they're actually within their rights to do, even though you are impeding the flow of traffic. All highways don't have minimums. Some highways have minimums of 40. All highways do not have minimums. So if you want to go 60, you actually can. So what does that do to me? Now that forces me over And if I can't get back over right away, I might actually have to speed up a little bit to get around the 60-mile-per-hour person. You see what I mean? So in theory, you can't maintain the speed limit at all times. You kind of can, but you can't. So my question is, how much is too much? 5 miles over, 10 miles over, 15 miles over, 20? At what point does it actually become a very dangerous situation when they make the cars to go that fast? They design them to go that fast. Your car can go 140 miles per hour, but you're never allowed to take it up there. Why not? So hopefully I have not advocated for drag racing down the highway. I do not advocate for drag racing. I do not advocate for reckless driving. But if you're going in a straight shot, why can't you go 100? Okay, let's move on before y'all think I'm advocating for bad behavior on the road. I'm really not. All I'm saying is true freedom. We're talking about true freedom here. True freedom is being able to move around as you wish. Do you understand? So, oh man, it's so hard to explain. Let me just move on. So, similarly, it's the freedom to determine your environment. So, you would be surprised how many people cannot determine their environment right now. A lot of young people who still live at home with their parents cannot determine their environment right now. So, what does that look like? A lot of parents won't turn their AC on in the summer, even though they can and even though they could afford it. They just won't. So they make the kids sweat it out every summer. The kid sits by the window, or the kid spends the majority of their time outside because their parents are such cheapskates, they won't turn on the air. So that child cannot determine their environment right now. This is why I strongly advocate for people who are sort of kind of in captive type situations, because the biggest thing is that they can't determine their environment. And if there's anything to protect other than peace on demand, it is your environment, where you are, what's around you, what it looks like, what it feels like, what it smells like, what it sounds like. You know how many people have their environments violated by sound every day and they can't do anything about it? So those people are not really free, because true freedom is being able to decide and determine the circumstances of your environment. Put your air on 65 if you want to, or put your air on 80, or turn your air off. Because here's the thing. The parents are within their rights to determine their environment in their home, right? They don't want the air on, no problem. There's only one problem though, and that is that they have another life to consider. It's not just them. And this is why I so advocate for people living by themselves, because once we have to consider another life, now we have to start making alterations to our own freedoms. We do. It's true. Because yes, the parents are actually within their rights to leave the air off all summer if they want to. But they don't live alone. They live with their child or their children. So, oh man, collaboration is hard, because true collaboration involves giving up some of your personal freedoms and sacrifices. And see, that's something I feel like I can't compromise on. I can't sit around in a hot house. So I could never marry anybody who likes it hot in the house or likes the air off. He'd have to live next door or across the street, because I'm not sitting up in this hot house with you. I just can't do it. You know what I mean? And that falls under the freedom to determine your environment and sort of kind of peace on demand. Because if I'm hot, I'm not at peace. All right. Freedom to explore. So the freedom to see an idea through to the very end. So let's say you suddenly decide that you've taken up an interest in woodworking. I don't know. And you have the money. It wouldn't be irresponsible for you to go out and, get the tools and the supplies and things like that. The freedom to do that, the freedom to watch a bunch of YouTube videos, go buy a bunch of supplies, set it up, and start your new woodworking hobby. The freedom to do that, not having to bounce that off of anybody, not having to get permission from anybody to go do that. That's what I mean by explore. The freedom to kind of follow the rabbit hole until it pops out on the other side. You'd be surprised how many people are not allowed to do that. How many people go to their spouses or go to their employer and say, hey, I think I really want to try this. And the spouse or the employer or the whomever is like, yeah, I thought about it and I don't think that's a good idea. I don't think you should do that. The freedom to actually truly explore who you are is true freedom, right? So let's keep going. Oh, whoops, I put one on there twice. Making decisions about your life. Sorry. All right. So let's just do a super quick recap. So we've gone through true wealth. Here are the elements of true wealth: having what you need when you need it, having backstock, having more than one of a useful thing, independence and self-sufficiency, peace on demand, uninterrupted time, health, creativity, and applied intelligence, wisdom, accuracy, clean air, water, and food on demand, adequate rest, and beautiful surroundings. That's real wealth, okay? And this is why a lot of people who are rich end up taking their own lives, because they do not have these things. They don't have access to them. They don't have access to uninterrupted time. These celebrities, are you kidding me? Every single day of their lives are scheduled out. These CEOs and, people who hold these high positions of power, every single day of their life is scheduled out. Every single one. They no longer own their own lives. And that's why a lot of them check out, because they're really, truly poor. Okay. Then true freedom, are these things: peace on demand, independence or lack of dependency, making your own decisions, freedom of movement, freedom to determine your environment, and freedom to explore. Okay. Now let's talk about time and how time is priceless, but can be bought. Okay. Now, people say you can't buy more time. And I think what they're really saying is you can't buy future time. But in many ways, yes, you can. You can't bring somebody back to life, but we can do things with life that maximize the hours that they do have here. We all have a set number of hours. So how can we actually maximize those hours in ways that can buy us more time? Okay. First and foremost, as we've talked about many times in my other channel, streamlining the schools. Okay. We do not have to hold these kids for 18 years anymore. We really don't. Most of what we teach them, they can learn online in one day, maybe a week. You can take an entire year's curriculum, and I promise you they can learn it in one day or a week online. So with the knowledge of that, how can we start to streamline our school system in such a way that doesn't hold these kids hostage for 18 years and also contributes to greater society as a result of releasing them sooner? No, I'm not suggesting releasing 10-year-olds and 13-year-olds into the world to be free, but couldn't we start to release them at 16 and in certain circumstances, 15? Not release them to go get apartments, not release them to go buy cars. But what I mean is, couldn't we start their process toward college a little earlier? Or if they want to go to a trade school, couldn't we start that a little sooner? Or if they just want to start working, couldn't we go ahead and initiate that ball rolling sooner to give young people and their families 2 years of their lives back? Do you see what I mean? Does it have to be school only? Are there other options? For example, what if a child at age 3 or 4 becomes obsessed with marine life, and the mom or dad or both takes them to the beach and the ocean and the different aquariums, and like they want to be involved in marine life, and they're adamant about it at a young age? Is school our only option, or could we start to find creative ways to integrate children at 8, 7, 8, 9 years old into these programs? So when they're 18, they pretty much already have their career going. Do you guys see what I mean? Like they've been so immersed in it from such a young age that you don't really have to teach or train much by the time they turn 18. They're kind of already in that life. It's kind of hard for me to explain. But what I'm saying is we no longer have to do this old economy style model. We could buy some time back here, like 2 years. Okay. As we've all discovered, the streamlining of employment and work can purchase back time. Many people have bought back I'm just going to use 4 hours because it's easier. Many people have bought back 4 hours a day in getting ready time, commute time, dropping the kids off time. 4 hours a day times 5 days a week is 20 hours times 52 weeks a year. If we do this for a year, they've bought back 1,040 hours. If you divide that by 24, which represents a day, they bought back 43 days of a year. 43 days by eliminating their commute to work. They purchased 43 days. Let me make sure I did that right. 4 hours a day times Monday through Friday, which is 5 days a week, equals 20 hours. And commute time alone, that's commute time alone, guys. 20 hours a week in commute time alone. Maybe that's too, let me be a little bit more, what's the word, conservative. So really the figure we used last night was 3. So an hour to get ready, an hour to commute there, and an hour home. So 3 hours a day times 5 days a week is 15 hours per week in commute. If you do that every week of the year, that's 52 weeks in a year, which is 780 hours in commute, divided by 24 hours, that's still 32.5 days, which is just a little over a month you've given away to the commute alone, to the getting ready and the commute. A little over a month of your life you've given away. So when I say I'm actually pro-life, that's what I mean. I'm actually pro-life in that I would like to not give away 32.5 hours. Wait, no, I'm sorry, 32.5 days of my life to commuting. I'm actually pro-life. So you know what I would actually love to see? And if there's any engineers or tech wizards in the chat, please help me out here. I feel like there's a name for a system and I just don't know the name. But essentially what I would love to see for our traffic is a system that never stops. So essentially, once you enter the highway, you don't stop until you get to where you're going. Now, I know that sounds dangerous, but it wouldn't necessarily be dangerous if it was done correctly. Because theoretically, when you come to an intersection, the only reason you're at that intersection is because another road is crossing over it, correct? And we can't have two different lanes crossing each other at the same time lest we have a massive pileup, right? So one set has to stop to let the other set go. What I'm proposing is a system citywide that essentially once you get into it, you cannot stop. There's nowhere to stop. I mean, you would have your medians, of course, for emergencies. But what I mean is there is no stop sign because there's no need for the stop sign. There is no red light because there's no need for a red light, because it's kind of like a continuous loop. God, I wish I could explain it better than that. Have any of you all seen, it's called the diverging diamond pattern. I'm going to put it in the chat so you guys know what I'm saying. It's called the diverging diamond. The diverging diamond is very close to what I'm talking about, but you still have to stop. But the reason they designed that, you'd have to Google it, and I might pull it up if I can find a good chart, is essentially in the past, they had like only one lane could go at a time. The diverging diamond makes it to where like two sets of opposite flowing traffic are able to go at the same time. It is so hard to explain, y'all. It's so hard to explain. But what I'm saying is I want like a citywide diverging diamond to where perhaps the only stop you have to make is getting onto it. But then again, maybe you could just merge onto it. So maybe we give you like 2 or 3 miles worth of merging lane. So when you leave, I mean, I guess you're always going to have to stop in traffic. But what I'm saying is, in my vision, there would be no stops because essentially it would be a system of overpasses, a system of diverging diamonds, a system of traffic that continuously moves. So you never come to a stop unless, there's an accident and you have to, but there shouldn't even be an accident because there's no reason to stop. So hopefully I'm making sense. But what I'm saying is efficiency in these areas. Oh, wait, I'm talking about something and it's not even up here yet. There we go. Efficiency in these areas. So for our traffic lights, why do we have to wait 3 minutes at a traffic light if nothing is coming? We may not be able to get our non-stop system going yet, but can we at least tweak our traffic lights to where they're so sensitive that they know when there's no traffic coming anymore and they know when they can let you go? Can we tweak that? Can we design a GPS system that communicates with the traffic lights, that sends signals to them to say, you got a rush coming towards you, go green and stay green until this rush is gone? Can we do that? Like, I feel like I live in the Jetsons. I feel like my mind is in like 2050, with the idea being you can get anywhere in the city between 5 or 10 minutes. Even if you live like 20 miles or 30 miles away, you can get anywhere in the city within 5 or 10 minutes because the traffic patterns and the flows are so well laid out. There is no waste. You see? Boy, I get ahead of myself. So ultimately, part of being actually pro-life is eliminating waste in all of these areas. Why? Because when you waste 32.5 days out of the year in a commute alone, you are wasting your life. That is your life. There is very little that you can do when you're actually the driver. If you're the passenger, you can do a little bit more, but there is so very little that you can do when you're the driver other than listen to YouTube videos, listen to music, listen to podcasts. But what else are you really doing with that time? You're not cooking, you're not cleaning, you're not planning, you're not working on a hobby. You might be spending time with friends and family if they're in the car with you. But generally, if you travel by yourself, you're not spending time with friends and family. You might call them on the phone. And that's some pretty good quality time, but it's not face-to-face time, pre-COVID, of course. Do you guys see what I mean? Like, when we waste our lives in any way, we are wasting the most precious thing. So let me go back to my premise slide. Considering that life is a precious event and it's a rare event, anytime that we waste in any area, we are wasting this precious event. We are wasting this rare event. This is why I get so frustrated when we talk about the different things that are affecting us politically and things. It's not that I get mad at the other party. It's like, come on, man, y'all don't see how we're wasting time right now? Time is precious. And some of these people are in their 70s and 80s wasting time. Like, you don't have any time to waste, sir or ma'am. So I don't see how they're so comfortable playing around with the time that we have. So when it comes to narcissists, someone just said in the chat, this is the perfect example of a narcissist. One reason that, now I really do hate narcs. I'll say that. I don't care. I hate narcissists. I can't stand them. Like, nothing pulls out like my mama wolf she bear more than an encounter with a narc, because I can't stand them. And part of the reason is because they destroy life. That's why. Narcissists steal life from you in one meaningful way or another. They don't treat life like it's precious. They don't treat life like it's rare. They don't treat time like it's priceless. They treat time like it's an abundant, renewable resource. And theoretically it is, but not for you. Theoretically, time is a renewable resource, just not for you, not for us. You see what I mean? So when a family or members of a family are comfortable letting that family become dysfunctional, or comfortable running from issues and not fixing issues, not repairing problems, acting like life goes on forever. Like, I can't tell you how many times I've said that before. I'm like, these people act like life goes on forever. Like, we just have guaranteed days. Like, you're guaranteed, I'm guaranteed, he's guaranteed, she's guaranteed tomorrow. And so I think that's kind of where my actually pro-life stance comes from. Like, hey, listen, guys, none of us are guaranteed a long haul here. So why don't we maximize what we have? So in the event this turns out to not be a long haul for you, you spent your time well. We really did life well. You know what I mean? We performed life well. We danced life well. We don't want to get to the pearly gates and be like, oh my God, I spent 32.5 days in traffic. That's how I spent my life. That lyric in the Whitney Houston song, Your Love is My Love. Your love is my love. She says, and the Lord asked me what I did with my life. I will say I spent it with you. Right. And I think that's, obviously a pretty song. But when the Lord asks us what we did with our life, how many of us are going to have to say, so let's say you do that every year for 30 years, 32.5 days times 30 years is 975 days divided by 365. So you spent, when the Lord asked you what you did with your life, you're going to have to tell the Lord, I spent 2.67 years in traffic, Lord. And the Lord is going to go, wow. So out of the 80 years I gave you, 2.67 of them you spent in traffic. Well, yes, Lord, I didn't think I had a choice. You see? And I don't know if the Lord will be mad at us for that or not, because but I think the Lord is going to hold us accountable to a degree, because it's like, to a degree, because it's like, well, you lived there. You never talked to your politicians. You never talked to the city planners. You never advocated for street lights that make sense, traffic patterns that make sense. You know what I mean? You just took it. You just accepted what was. And as a result, ended up wasting almost 3 years of your natural life just sitting in traffic. Do you see what I mean? Do you see what I mean by the preciousness of it all? And again, I know that there's not going to be zero waste. There will always be some waste in the system, but we can optimize it down to where it's only the waste that's absolutely necessary and required. You see what I mean? Or the waste that we couldn't prevent even if we tried, kind of situation. So this is what I mean by being actually pro-life. So when I apply that to, say, the workplace, and I say this all the time, I only repeat myself for those who might be new, which is, I'm going to give you my all towards the job you hired me for. But life is a precious event and life is a rare event. And for those reasons, I'm not going to give you my life. I'm not. This is my special gift that God gave me. Just like your life is the gift that God gave you. So I don't want to waste this precious gift that I've been given, handing my life over to a corporate cult. Are you kidding me? Like, when people choose themselves and like do dramatic quits, like, I can't tell y'all what that does for my heart. I can't tell you what that does when people choose not to live in fear and choose to value their precious life over the whims of a corporate cult. It fills my heart with great joy. It really does. Because it's like, they get it. They understand. You know what I mean? People who take a step back and go, you know what? My life is more precious than this. My family is more precious than this. And hear me out, guys. I'm not saying run out and quit your job tomorrow. That's not what I'm saying. I'm talking about those environments that are cultish, those environments that require you pay parts of your precious life to them, even though that precious life was not part of the job description. Give me pieces of you. I want you. It's like, yeah, you do a great job at that we hired you for, but I want you. Give me you. Give me some of your discretionary, hold on. Now we're getting there. I knew it would kick in eventually. Give me some of your discretionary, hold on. Boom. Give me some of your discretionary independence. Give me some of your discretionary peace. Give me some of your discretionary time. Give me some of your discretionary health. Oh yeah, health. Give me some of your discretionary health. Put yourself in harm's way for me. Make yourself sick and unhealthy and backed up for me. Come in here and breathe this contaminated air because we don't change the air filters enough. Come in here and breathe this contaminated air for me. Come inhale your coworker's perfume for 8 hours for me. Come do that for me. Yeah. Come give me some of your discretionary health. Come give me all of that creativity and applied intelligence. I want all of that. Give me some of that wisdom and accuracy, you know? Hey, potluck, bring me some of that food. And I'm just kidding. Give me some or take away from your adequate rest and devote that to me. Exhaust yourself for me. You know, trade your beautiful surroundings for this corporate cubicle. Trade that for me. Okay. What else? Give me some more of your peace on demand. Let me take over the decision making for your life. Let me do that for you. Stay here. Stay at your desk. Don't go anywhere. Give that to me. Give me some of your freedom of movement. Give it. Let me determine your environment. I want to be your environment. I want to be the determiner of your environment. Do you understand? Don't explore. Why do you want to explore? We have everything you need here. Stay here. Explore us. And again, the duplicate. Sorry for the duplicate. Okay. But do you guys see what I'm saying? So as usual, I feel like that I didn't say everything I meant to say behind this. And the reason that is because this topic and idea always comes up in the middle of another stream that I'm doing. So I have to actually go back and find some of the ideas that prompted this topic, the on being actually pro-life. And when that happens, I will actually do a part 2 for you guys, because I know there's something I'm leaving out. I just can't think of what it is. It's totally escaped me. So I will do a part 2 for us on this, but hopefully this makes sense. I might just be being a little bit too hard on myself right now, but I hope that I was able to kind of get the point across regarding being actually pro-life, what it really means to value life, what it really means to put life first. The womb is already naturally pro-life. What do we do when the baby comes out of the womb to make the outside of the womb pro-life? Do you see what I mean? To give one more example, and we'll close on this example. Those of you who grow things in your garden, vegetables, fruits, whatever, there are certain circumstances required for the life of that plant. You cannot just go doing whatever you want and expect to have good results. Sometimes you're going to get lucky, and some plants and flowers are so hardy that even when you abuse them, they'll still grow. But a lot of them require very specialized care. For example, orchids. Orchids like rocks and sand. Orchids don't like soil, I don't think, if I'm not mistaken. If I'm wrong, I'll correct myself after the show. But if I'm not mistaken, orchids like rocks and sand. So if you go stick an orchid in soil, you are going to kill it. I'm just going to fact check myself really quick. What to plant orchids in? Let's see here. Okay, it says depending on the type of orchid, they can be happy growing in peat moss, fir bark, dried fern roots, sphagnum moss, rock wool, perlite, cork nuggets, stones, coconut fiber, lava rock, or a blend of these that combines all these materials. So in other words, if you go shoving your orchid into regular dirt, it's going to die. Why? Because you were not pro-life toward that orchid. You did not give it everything it really needed to thrive. You didn't give it what it needed to be successful in life. You didn't. You shoved it in sand, or excuse me, you shoved it in soil with the hope that it would grow in spite of not having it what it really needed for its life. And you were wrong, and it died. And it's the same thing with any plant. You can't just go shoving any plant into any soil and expect good results. You have to be pro-life towards that plant. And what I'm saying is, you are that plant. And we have to create a world and an environment that is pro-life towards the you plant, the plant that is you. And that is essentially what I mean, you guys. So I'll gather more of my thoughts. I'm going to listen to the playback. And then sometime in the future, we will do a part 2 to this, because I do feel like I have more to say. It's just escaping me right now, but I wanted to go ahead and do this stream. So thank you all for being here so much. Thank you for your continued support. Shout out to my sponsors. I appreciate you greatly. And with that, you guys, I hope you have a wonderful weekend and we will talk again soon, okay? Bye.